Hello everyone, this is Shannon from That's So Po, and today I'm doing week 23 of my 2022 reads. This week I read kind of a wide variety of things and had a bunch of fun with it. Timestamps and content warnings are in the description box below. First, I read Pachinko by Min Jin Lee. This is a book that I buddy read with Tori at Tori Morrow, who I will link below. If you haven't checked out Tori's channel, definitely do so. One, she's just the best human being, but two, she reads such great SFF, and she also loves historical fiction. So we had such a fun time reading Pachinko because this is a multi-generational saga that takes place throughout the 20th century in Korea and Japan. And this was just such a great book to discuss because there was so much going on that was really interesting character-wise, but also really interesting setting and history and politics-wise. I have lived in Japan, but I'm not an expert on a lot of these things, and so it was really interesting kind of seeing, oh yeah, I've heard of that sort of thing, but learning more about it. The basic storyline of this book is that there is a woman who is in Korea. She's very poor. She ends up moving to Japan in the 1930s, I believe, with her husband, who is a priest. He's a pastor for a Presbyterian church. He's also Korean. They go to Japan, and this is during the time when Japan was colonizing Korea as well as China, and many Korean people came to Japan, and their kind of story unfolds, as well as some of their relatives and their descendants' stories. And so this is really following their family and looking at especially the kind of very difficult situation that a lot of Korean people who moved to Japan faced because they were never given citizenship in Japan, but they also couldn't go back to Korea after kind of the Korean War broke out and all sorts of different things happened. And so you have these sort of second-class citizens in Japan where they were often put into ghettos and couldn't get work and all sorts of things, and just sort of how they're struggling to survive. The story is really character focused. There's so much here on the characters, and a lot of them, your heart goes out to them. I'd say that this book isn't just full of misery, but there's a lot of tough things that happen, so definitely check out the content warnings below. But it's really about how systemic oppression can be so hard to deal with, both in terms of kind of economic reasons and as well as emotional ones, and how that can affect so many people on so many different levels. So I thought that the history and politics in this were really good. I loved the characters as well. It did get a little bit dramatic and angsty and kind of so many bad things happening towards the end for me, but even so, this was a really great read, and I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. Next, I read When I Grow Up, I Want to Be a List of Further Possibilities by Chen. This is a poetry collection that I absolutely adored, and I'm going to have a review for it up later on this week. Basically, this poetry collection is everything that I love. It is all about identity. Chen is a queer Chinese American poet. It's about society, it's about emotions, and it has so much humor. I absolutely loved the humor in this. I mean, even just from the title of this, you can tell that there's this sense of playfulness, of whimsy, and of humor that is part of the collection. I really adored this. If you're into poetry at all, I really highly recommend that you check out this collection, or take a look at my review later this week if you want to get some idea of what the poetry sounds like. But this was excellent, and I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. Next, I read CQ by Kristen Radtke. This is a graphic nonfiction that I heard about from Emma at the Overstuffed Shelf, who I will link below. Definitely check Emma's channel out. She has a lot of great nonfiction recommendations. So this book is basically Radtke exploring the idea of loneliness in America today, kind of what it manifests as well as going into research talking about what causes loneliness and what effect loneliness has on us, on our bodies and our minds. The illustrations in this I thought were really beautiful. I loved the style and I loved the color palette. Some of the illustrations in particular I thought were just so evocative in terms of illustrating the emotions, so that was really cool. But there were a lot of other pages where the illustrations seemed very secondary. They seemed almost just random or background, and the text could have just been pure text and it wouldn't have been affected at all. So that was kind of uneven for me. The ideas that are explored in this are very interesting, just this idea of what it does to us to be isolated, to be lonely, how it affects us, how it can lead to some pretty negative outcomes. And also it explores quite a bit of research on loneliness, including content warnings for quite a bit of animal experimentation that was done that was incredibly cruel. But that's kind of like the history of some of this research. So there's a lot in this that was really interesting, but also I sort of felt like maybe this could have just been like a long blog article. Like, I'm not sure that it needed a full book. I think I maybe wanted somehow more depth or more personal connection or something to it, or I wanted the illustrations to line up a little bit better with the text to make it make sense to me. I thought it was good, but maybe not quite perfect. So I gave it 3.5 out of 5 stars. And lastly, I read Playing Lotería by René, Colato, Laínez, illustrated by Jill Arena. This is a bilingual children's picture book that I heard about from Kristen at Kristen L SFF Reader, who I'll link below. And this was just a lot of fun. It is basically a bilingual picture book in English and Spanish, both of them are on the page, talking about a boy who goes to visit his grandmother, but he's a little worried because he doesn't speak Spanish very well and she doesn't really speak any English. So he's worried that he's not going to be able to communicate with her, but they bond over her teaching him how to play Lotería, which is this bingo-like game that has all of these different cards that have animals and objects on them, and him learning how to say those and how to play the game. So it's a really sweet story about kind of bonding over generations despite a language gap and learning each other's languages. Kristen had recommended this to me because I'm always, one, looking for more picture book recommendations, and two, her kids are bilingual and they really loved this, and you know, I'm always trying to read more in Spanish anyway. So yeah, this was definitely a fun book. I thought that the illustrations were beautiful and it was just a lot of fun. I don't know that it necessarily had as much depth as maybe I want, but it was just a really great bilingual picture book. So I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. Okay, that's everything that I read this week. If you guys have read any of these, or if you're interested in them, or if you want to tell me what you've been reading this week, especially if you've been reading any bilingual picture books, go ahead and leave me a comment down below.